everybody, and good morning. Welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. We are just finishing up the book, How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People. And before we get started on that, we're going to go ahead and invite some people onto here.
Peeps.
All right, here we go. So we're on chapter 13, How to Criticize Others Without Offending Them. So about 90% of the time when we tell other people, I'm telling you this for your own good, we're not. We're telling him to boost up our own ego by pointing out the other person's flaws. So one of the things whenever you're going to go criticize somebody, you need to figure out whether or not it's something that is absolutely necessary to say, or if you're just being a bully. Because if you're just constantly nitpicking at people and always finding a flaw with them, they're not going to want to be around you, nor will they listen to you. Because if you constantly make people feel bad about themselves, they won't be around you. So, hold on. So you want to look at criticism in a new light, because the art of criticism is so little known because 99% of people are so inept at it. The very word criticism leaves a very bad taste in people's mouths. So when we think of the word, we think of those men and women who have criticized us badly, and we are apt to think of somebody we're apt to think of someone jumping down our throat, showing us up, or humiliating us, or beating us down. However, the real purpose to criticism is not to beat the other person down, it's to build them up. So not hurting their feelings, but to help them do the job better. So giving compliments really helps, and he'll talk about this in a minute. Giving a compliment before you give the criticism, hey, we really enjoy that you're such a hard worker on the team. You're a go-getter. You're out there and you do what's best for the rest of the team, and you're willing to help other people. But I think you might want to try doing this as well to help improve your performance. See how that comes across as a lot better, rather than you're not doing this, you need to do this. Do you see the difference? So you want to really think about what you're going to say to people before you say it. So here we go. Had to find my place here. So the 7 musts of successful criticism. The first one, there we go. I got the newer version, so he doesn't quite know how to use it. All good. So 7 musts of successful criticism. The first one is criticism must be made absolutely private. You never want to be having these conversations in front of the team or in front of other people. And again, you don't want to, the goal is not to humiliate the person. The goal is to make them better. So by doing it in front of other people, basically you're making them look bad in front of other people. Like, people don't like their flaws being pointed out in front of others, and they don't want to be seen as weak on the team. And even though you might not think that, think that it's a bad thing, and they're like, oh, well, everybody should just accept constructive criticism. But it has to be done in private. These are not the conversations that need to be had in a group. They need to be done in private, where you can have the discussion and not do it in front of other people, because most people do not want this stuff brought up in public. Number 2, preface criticism with a kind word or a compliment. So kind words, compliments, and praise have an effect of setting the stage in a friendly atmosphere. It serves notice on the other person that you are not attacking their ego, and it puts them more at ease. So the natural reaction to a person is to get defensive whenever you bring something up. They want to defend their actions because they're like, I didn't do that, I'm doing it right. So putting in a compliment first really does help. So by praising a person, you bring out the best in him, and he will be willing to understand you better when the criticism is necessary. What you looking at there? Squirrel mode. So number 3, make criticism impersonal and criticize the act, not the person. But there again, the sidestep to the other person's ego. You never want to step on their ego. By criticism of his actions or behavior, not the person. So after all, the actions are what you're more interested in anyway, because it's not the person who's messing up. It's just a certain action. It just may be they're not following through the process correctly. Because whenever we start people who are new on the team, we have a script and we sit down. We're like, we're going to show you exactly how this works. We're going to show you how to contact. We're going to show you how to invite. And we're going to show you how to do the presentation. So whenever we walk people through those steps, it never fails. Somebody's going to do something wrong. And we'll know it because they're like, I can't get anybody on the phone or nobody's signing up. And I'm like, okay, well, walk me through and let's see what's going on. Let's see if you're missing anything. And sure enough, there always will be that one thing that they're missing. It may be they're not setting up the phone calls correctly. We have a process of how we schedule people for phone calls, because and we'll get into how we do that another time, but that makes a huge difference when you're talking to leads, and that's what we mainly do. So I always, when we have that issue, I say, oh, well, here's the issue right here. We're just missing this. Let's try this and see how it works. Do you see how it's not attacking the person? It's not saying you're messing up, you're doing wrong. It's just, we're missing this. Let's try this. It comes across a little differently, and people don't take it as personally, because the moment it becomes personal, people overreact, people get into fights, and people quit. And you got to remember, this isn't like a normal job. This is a voluntary business. And if people don't like you, they're going to leave. That's just how it is. Oh, need a drink. Here we go. Number 4. Supply the answer. So again, like in the example that we had, whenever you're going to bring something up to somebody that needs to be addressed, you don't want to just say, here's what's wrong. You also want to give the supply the answer, or give a couple suggestions and have them pick. It's better to come up with more suggestions of what they should do and let them choose it, because it's them making the decision rather than you just saying you should do this. So if somebody's saying, I'm having a really hard time getting people on the phone, and I'm like, okay, well, here's a couple of things that you're missing. What do you think you should be doing? Sometimes it's just, people already know the answer, so sometimes you need to just ask them what do they think they need to do, because a lot of times they're just asking just because. Sometimes, or they want the answer, but the goal is you want to get people to think too. But giving people choices, finding a way to give somebody a choice of like, okay, you could either do this or this, which one works best for you? And people will pick, and it gives them the sense that they're in control, but you're really leading them through. Number 5, ask for cooperation, don't demand it. Again, this is not like this is not like a job. This is a business, and you can't just demand people to do things. It's not like at work where a manager can come up and say, hey, I need you to do XYZ by this time. If you don't get it done, you're going to be fired. Here, everything's voluntary. You don't demand from people. You ask for their cooperation. So when something needs to get done, you just ask people. It's just like, hey, we need to do these things. Would you like to help us out with that? Or here's a couple of things that need to get done. And here's a couple different tasks. Which one do you want to help with? So, and really the responsibilities when you're building a team get figured out by the people who are producing. The people who are producing end up with more responsibilities because they're doing the actions that are necessary to build the business. So the more the people work, the more that will entrust them with different responsibilities, because the person who's not producing doesn't know what it takes and what's necessary to be able to do all these other things. So, like example, when we start doing the live events again, we will have certain people helping out with those events, but those are the people who show up consistently, who are doing their presentations, who are building a team. The people who are not doing that will not be trusted with those responsibilities. Responsibilities get entrusted to people who are actually working, not people who are not. Number 6, one criticism to an offense. So to call attention or give an error at one time is justified, twice is unnecessary, 3 times is nagging. And remember, your goal in criticism is to get the job done, not win an ego fight. Also, once something is addressed, don't bring it up again. Once it's already been talked about, you've had the conversation, they're gonna go fix it. Don't start nagging people. Once it's been brought up once and you've had the conversation, you do not bring it up again. And you do not bring it up again in conversation, because also once people fix the issue, you never want to keep bringing up that past mistake unless they bring it up and they're like, yeah, I messed up on this at one time too, unless it's an example for the team and he's okay giving that example. Like he might be sitting down, like at some point that person might be up in front of the room and they're like, you know what, you need to follow this process exactly. If you don't follow the process, you're going to be like me, you're going to mess it up, you're not going to get anywhere until you follow this process exactly. And it's only if they bring it up, but you never want to bring it up in a negative light, and you always want their permission if you're going to use an example. Most people are okay with it, and a lot of times if somebody is like, you know what, I'm not comfortable with you bringing up my mistake, they'll tell you. But get permission if you want to use it, if it's going to be part of a training of like, look, this is how we follow the process. If you don't follow the process, this is what's going to happen. But once an issue has been resolved, do not go back to it. You don't want to go back to past problems, and you don't want to be hanging on to that negative issue. Number 7, finish in a friendly fashion. So until an issue has been resolved on a friendly note, it really hasn't been finished. So don't leave things hanging in the air and to bring up later. Get it settled, get it finished, and bury it. So it's just in the manner of how you bring the conversation up to people. You always want to bring it to them in a friendly manner. You never want to come up to a person and be like, you're doing this wrong. You have to fix this. You have to do that. It doesn't come across very well. You always want to bring it up to people and start at a friendly note, compliment them, make them feel good about the things that they are doing right, and then say, but we need to work on a couple of things here. How do you think that we need to do this? What do you think you need to do to be able to do this? Or here's a couple of options. Which one do you think is going to work best for you? And let them pick. So then you can actually walk them through, and the process is much, much easier. So with that, that is pretty much this book. This has been a great book. If you have not bought it yet, I suggest you do, because there's a lot of things in here that we didn't go over, different examples. He also has the Human Relations Handbook in the very, very back. This is something that we're not going to go over on the show because it is very, very long, and it's a lot of things that you need, questions that you need to ask yourself. So it would be great to have you go through it because it's going to show you different ways to bring this to your team and to bring that even in your personal life. He mentions it's always going to be used somewhere. Anytime you deal with people, you're going to need to use this. But those are going to be some things that you need to go through that are in the back of the book. We're not going to post them, but buy the book, go through the process, and see how you need to be improving and where you can start applying. Because sometimes you got to sit down and really think, okay, here's this one person that I have a relationship with. We really have a hard time. What are some ways now that I could actually bring different conversations to them? How can I make this conversation better? And those exercises that he has in the back of this book are going to help with that and really narrow down how you need to go about it. So with that, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, tomorrow we will be going over Talent is Never Enough. It's the new book that we're going to go over, starting tomorrow, but it's supposed to be the month of October. So we're a little ahead of schedule. Some of these books have different amount of chapters in them. Typically we say we're going over a book a month, but actually we're going over like a book and a third. So they're going to kind of run together month to month. So tomorrow, that is what we'll do, unless you want to go through this tomorrow.
Oh, you want to go through all the questions?
Well, we can.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you like us to go through all the questions tomorrow? Because we can.
Yeah, a lot of this is evaluation based. One problem is your self-programming, self-analysis checklist. We're going to go over tomorrow is never. I have a textbook for a living. Oh, okay. You have the textbook for a living. Okay. So yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll start Talent is Never Enough tomorrow by John C. Maxwell. So if you don't have that book already, let's get on it and roll through it with us. His books usually are pretty easy to understand, easy to go through, so it'll be a good time.
All right.
You want a role play. Okay, I can't read. Andrew Feiner is here. What's up, Sarah? So,
I believe that is it. So we will see you guys tomorrow and have a wonderful Monday.
All right.